the new world order of college football because of transfer portal stuff, a bunch of other things. Anyway, you got to fire coaches a lot sooner than you used to. You used to be able to wait till the season, end of the season. Nah, you got to do that stuff in the middle of the year, to the point where even if you ain't been fired yet, we know what's going to happen. Billy Napier, thank you for your service. They went ahead and let him go on Monday after a win. By the way, that's a new thing that happens. They don't even necessarily wait until you do something indefensible.
Is that the reverse Kroom if you beat Mississippi State and get fired?
Well, isn't that what happened to Jimbo? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jimbo won a game against Mississippi State.
Still
and then they
fired.
were like, how'd you like $70 million? I'd love $70 million. And I get to leave College Station. I wish a motherfucker would offer me $70 million to leave College Station. That's the
I do a lot more for a lot less.
Oh my God, it's the greatest. I'd give you $70 million to leave College Station. What are you talking about? So anyway, they fired Billy Napier. Florida State lost to, was it Stanford? They lost to Stanford. You know that man is getting fired. Like, time is up for him. All these jobs are open. UCLA is open. And by the way, I had made the point that maybe nepotism had gone well because they made Rick Neuheisel's son the offensive coordinator. The offense got together. I realized I never found out who their interim coach was. And everywhere I go, they keep showing the Neuheisel kid. And now I know why I didn't know who their interim coach was, because he's black. It'll turn this whole goddamn thing around. And not one person is like, boy, you might want to give that Tim Skipper guy a head job. Maybe it's because you didn't know his name was Tim Skipper. Because I didn't know his name was Tim Skipper. I saw the dude's last name was Skipper. I was like, damn, like my old boss? I don't think so, at least. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoa, what's going on here? But anyway, that job's going to be open. They're going to fire that coach at Wisconsin, I'm certain, at some point. Who else do we know is going to lose? Auburn is looking real dicey.
Hugh Freeze is going to lose his job. Bill Belichick's going to lose his job.
Yes.
Lincoln Riley might lose his job.
It's on the board.
Brian Kelly might lose his job.
Oh, yeah. I forgot you guys lost to Vanderbilt. And you watched the game. I did not. And I was in New Orleans, and I did not watch the game because I didn't want to be around any invested parties. And worst case scenario went down.
You made the right call.
You have told me they lost. Like this was not a fluke.
They lost. They were outclassed. That game could have easily been 3 scores.
Wow.
Yeah. It's bad.
Yeah. No, the Brian Kelly, like these moves, like what happened with James Franklin, it accelerates it for everybody else. Like the combination of James Franklin getting fired and Indiana still kicking people's teeth in. Like last year felt fluky. This year looked like they got a team.
And they just gave their coach $90 million.
Right. And that combination of two things has really, it makes for a really strange world where Penn State shows what it is that you do when you're serious about football, or when you just decide you don't like how this has been feeling for a while. Okay, cool. You go ahead and you make that move. Auburn is in the midst of a 4-game losing streak. This is Hugh Freeze's 3rd year. They've had a 4-game losing streak each season he's been there. And per the great researcher Spencer Hall, a 4-game losing streak the year before that too. Okay? You can't keep your job at Auburn with 3 straight losing seasons, which is what it looks like Hugh Freeze is going to have. Okay? You can't keep hitting the ball into the rough, hole after hole after hole, and think you're going to keep that job. That's not going to happen. They're going to get him out of there. Okay? So we're talking about really good jobs. And I still think that Florida largely counts as a really good job. Penn State is a really good job. Florida State, not quite as good, but in a similar class. Auburn, I contend, is a very good job. LSU, high ceiling, low floor kind of situation, but it's there. USC, if it comes open, that one can be a really good job. I don't think Penn State is actually open. I think Matt Rule is almost guaranteed to get the Penn State job, but then Nebraska comes open, which is a weird job, and I'd hate to take that Nebraska job once Kurt Cignetti showed proof of concept of what can be done at Indiana, which means at Nebraska, they are looking at you like, why can't we be Indiana? This is happening all over the board. This is what I want to bring up about that and like all of this. We talked, I guess it was last week, maybe the week before, about the report that the Big Ten was considering taking a infusion of cash from private equity. And you guys know how I feel about private equity. And I raised the question, which I think is always the right question, which is, what has private equity ever made better? All right. But I realized I was looking at this the wrong way. And I didn't realize I was looking at it the wrong way until I saw a tweet from Cody Campbell. And if you guys don't know who Cody Campbell is, he's a fairly interesting figure in modern college football. Cody Campbell, I believe, is the chairman of the board of trustees at Texas Tech. I think he was a Texas Tech football player. Don't quote me on that, but I think he was. Anyway, Cody Campbell is a billionaire. And if you have wondered why it is that Texas Tech seems to be better than they used to be, it's because Cody Campbell out here spending that money. All right. So anyway, Campbell sends this tweet and he says, basically, this private equity deal is terrible. I think he may have used the term payday loan, but if he didn't, other people have used the term payday loan. He's just saying that this is an infusion of cash that they need and that everybody needs this cash. But the big reason they need the cash is the day was always going to come where you were going to have to pay the players, not just this NIL farce that we have right now. Schools were going to have to reach into their own pockets to pay the players. That everybody knew this day was coming and they never really planned for it. And that is right in line with everything we know about college football. They knew that NIL someday was coming, all of this. And then when it was coming, everybody was in chaos. Nobody knows what to do, right? Because this reality has been staring them in the face for God knows how long, and they never got out there and they were never prepared to do anything about it. And so his thing is now, because you haven't prepared, now you're going to need a payday loan, right? Now what you going to do? It's a terrible deal and you shouldn't take it. That's his outlook. But it was the thought, what hadn't dawned on me was that I was looking at this when I talked about it 2 weeks ago as though the Big Ten was being greedy. You're making all this money from CBS. You're making all this money in all these different ways, and you still want to take more cash. It's worth noting the two schools that seem to be pushing back the hardest on this payday loan are the ones that got the most money, Ohio State and Michigan. They're the ones that are like, this is a bad idea because the Big Ten wants to do this unanimously. They're like, nah, this isn't it. This isn't the move to make. But what I realized after reading what Campbell had to say and thinking about this a little bit more, and why I brought up all this movement with the coaches before, it feels like mutually assured destruction is on the way. Now, I don't want to guarantee that that's what's happening, but it feels like it. And so this is the context I want to give, and just to kind of give everybody, something to think about. If you listen to the show, I am a pig in slop when it comes to talking about these things. You know this about me. Okay. What people have to remember is that college football programs are revenue max, or just college sports in general is probably a better way to put it. They are revenue maximizing operations, which is not to be confused with a profit maximizing organization, because a profit maximizing organization is trying to figure out how to keep these costs down. A really good college football program is looking for ways to spend money. Like when people talk about what are not even people, I'm going too far there. What I've been told makes Alabama a great job if you're somebody like Nick Saban is very simple. If Nick Saban says we need this because it's going to make football better, then that money's going to be spent and they're going to make the football better, right? Nick Saban comes in and is like, look, we need a $35,000 air conditioner in the weight room because the boys get hot. It'll be a $35,000 air conditioner in there. I mean, shit, let me stop lying. That's probably exactly what it costs. If that one at my house costs $15,000. You understand what I'm saying, though? You can come up with exorbitant numbers. And if Nick Saban could convince them, and I guess Kalen DeBoer now too, that it would make the football team better, it was going to be spent. That's the kind of arms race that this is, because there are no shareholders. There are no dividends to pay out. Get the money, spend the money, win. And if you're winning, you can't be known in the streets as a program that doesn't spend money to keep up with the winning. And so what has happened is all these different things have stacked up. And with these schools in the Big Ten, my guy Pat Forty at SI had written something about this. Like, a big thing that's happened is all these stadium expansions, the long-term debt from that, those bills are coming due. All this money that people have kept spending, because the game is to spend the money once you get it. Now, all these bills are coming due, and now you got to pay the players, right? College athletic programs need to chill out on spending all that money. But they can only chill out on spending all that money if everybody decides to chill out on spending all that money. That's the only way. All right. Indiana just said they're willing to spend $11 million to pay a head coach. Indiana football. So what's Penn State got to pay their coach if they want to show they serious? Keeping in mind, they're going to have to pay some share of the $50 million to James Franklin. Right. Right.
And to keep in mind that all of these jobs and all of these openings are represented by primarily two agents,
Jimmy Sexton.
and Trace Armstrong.
Oh, Trace. I forgot about my old buddy Trace.
Yes. So
yes.
You were not only like, if you think $11 million is not the ceiling, it's the floor.
Right.
For
right.
these new extensions.
Right. Look, Florida's going to have to cut Billy Napier a $20 million, like a $10 million check, like very soon, and then another $10 million after that. And then, look, I don't know if they're going to hire Lane Kiffin, but that's the plan. Like that's the
idea. That's certainly what's on top of their board. I mean, Florida State's talking about, On3 reported today, they're going to, if they got rid of Norvell and his staff, it's $100 million.
And they don't really have any money. Like the whole thing with Florida State always is that they don't have any money. I'm sure they had to pay Willie money when they got Willie out of there to bring Norvell in, but it's all the spending, and then the impatience about keeping your coach. You got to realize this, and I think those of you who are young will not know it, Dave. There used to be a time where people could keep a job at a major university for 10 years and never have a winning record. Like, I mean, obviously you couldn't do that at Alabama, but you could do that at one of those mid to lower tier schools. Like there was a realistic understanding that, hey, man, sometimes it's just going to be like that. We know who we are. Nobody's playing that game anymore. Therefore, nobody can slow down the spending. Nobody can stop it. It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that this actually becomes exacerbated by the playoff because there are more spaces for people to play for. Therefore, more benchmarks for people to reach. Therefore, more reasons for people to think that they should be better. It's one thing, like, I always talk about this. When Wake Forest won the ACC in 2006, I feel like half the coaches in the conference were fired within 2 years. Because once the smallest school in the conference can do it, then nobody else has any excuse. You see what I'm saying? But that's because Wake Forest went to the Orange Bowl. Indiana goes to the playoff last year as one of the 16 top schools. It doesn't matter that they got their teeth kicked in. It's like, well, how come we can't do that? You know, SMU gets to the playoff. Well, hey, man, how come we can't do that? It's more and more people saying that thing. And when they say that, they're like, well, we got to do more. And the way to do more is always spending a lot more money. That's always what it is. And now the conference that seems to be printing money, right? If I'm not mistaken, they got more out of their deal than the SEC got out of their deal with ABC, ESPN.
That is the one thing where I understand where these Cody Campbells and these private equity types are dealing with. The networks are taking these conferences for a ride in negotiations every year. Like they're getting we went through probably 20 years where the SEC on CBS was the biggest deal in broadcast TV. Right. And we're probably going to have the exact same thing with, the SEC on ABC this next 10 years.
Yeah, but they're all still making boatloads of money.
Correct. There's obviously still making money hand over fist.
Yeah, and it ain't enough. And by the way, I understand why it's not enough. Like once you get the systemic factors and put all that stuff together, I'm not judging them so much for the fact that it's not enough. I'm telling you it's never going to stop. But if it doesn't stop, this is going to fall apart. This is unsustainable, the rate at which all of these things are happening. It can only go up so much more, right? Not everybody's supposed to fire their coach every 3 years. Not everybody's supposed to have these sorts of expectations. Again, I don't know, I was talking to an Uber driver today who was talking about the pressure on parents for what you provide for your kids that allow them, that is created by Instagram because now everybody can see what everybody else has, right? And cable streaming, everything else, whatever. But everything is so interconnected in a way that everybody sees what everybody else has. And that makes people more envious and that makes people more jealous and that makes people want, again, if Indiana can do it, why can't we? All this stuff gets ramped up. But I'm just telling you, just watch. Because if the Big Ten ever does eventually take that private equity deal, and I think they will, maybe not today, but another day they will. When they do, the clock is ticking on them because private equity has never made anything better. And if the Big Ten can't figure out how to do this without borrowing money, what is anybody else going to do? I tell you what they're not going to do. They're not going to stop spending money.